Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our Sunday morning Sunday school devotion here at St. John United Church of Christ. I'm Pastor Jana Myers, and I'm so grateful that you are joining us for this, our second Sunday of June, a time to reflect on things that are summery and fun and full of faith. So this morning we have another and it is new, Sunday school lesson from the Still Speaking Writers Group at the United Church of Christ Daily Devotions. You can actually find this link or this lesson using the link on your screen. You can copy and paste it into your browser. It will take you right over to the website where you will find our lesson for today. It's called Steward by Reverend Quinn Cadwell. You can find it over there. You can also just head over and sign up for their emails, and then you'll get it in your inbox and you'll know it before I use it. But this comes to us from the Still Speaking Writers Group. And if you want to read along with me, use that link or save it so that you can read along later in the week when you want a refresher. This morning's lesson comes from 1 Peter chapter 4, verse 10. Like good stewards of the grace of God, serve one another with whatever gift each of you has received. Our author writes, among the few regrettable losses attached to the decline of monarchy is a fully functional understanding of what exactly a steward is, apart from being that wine guy in the restaurant. Fans of The Lord of the Rings by J.R.R. Tolkien will have a pretty good sense, though. When the last king in his stories rode off into the sunset, the king left his steward in charge of the city, with virtually all the powers and dignity of kingship. By the time of the story, the stewardship has passed down through kingless generations upon generations until the steward has become king in every sense but name, and which chair he happens to sit in. But then, back comes the descendant of the last king. In the story, the current steward doesn't like this one bit. He started to believe his own hype, forgotten that he's just a stand-in, and that his power is actually someone else's. The steward thinks he has a right to it. The steward eventually loses his mind and wrecks a whole lot of stuff, including himself, because the steward cannot handle the return of the king. Problematic notions of hereditary rulership aside, it's a pretty good metaphor. If only the steward had been a churchgoer. Maybe then he'd have stewardship season every year where somebody would remind him that all he has been entrusted to him to invest on behalf of its owner. Maybe he'd have read all the texts like First Peter periodically reminding him. Maybe then somebody would have told the steward that everything in his power, his money, his power, his office, his talent is simply a loan. And maybe then it wouldn't have been so hard on him when the owner came back. It's a tricky lesson. It's a tricky lesson because it asks us to remember that what we have, even the things we are sure we are entitled to, are simply things that are entrusted to us, gifts for us to hold for a time before letting someone else hold them. At church, I think we do a pretty good job of remembering this. The building that we get to inhabit is only here because gifts of those who came before us. The last building we got to inhabit was gifts because of those who came before us. The ground upon which we get to have our church was a gift from someone who came before. All of the things that we have are gifts. And the hope is that we will steward those gifts, not that we will possess them or keep them or own them or hoard them, but that we will shepherd them, that we will take care of them, and that in our time we will gift things to those who are yet to come or who are still waiting. But it does mean that we have to think about the things that we have with gentleness. And how do we best use them to serve one another? Our author doesn't write about this, but if we look back at the verse that he selected, like good stewards of God's grace, serve one another with whatever gift each of you has received. The key part of that phrase is to be a steward of God's grace. To remember that we don't own it, possess it, keep it, and we certainly cannot hoard God's grace, keep it away from others, prevent those who might need it from seeking it out because we determine them not to be the rightful people for it. We should steward that grace, take care of it, shepherd it, and pass it out as much as it is needed and fulfilling for those sheep who stand in need. A good steward is like a shepherd, one who cares and takes care of the flock, but doesn't own the flock, doesn't keep it for himself, but instead seeks to grow it and take care of it. This is hard when we talk about God's love, God's grace, because sometimes we think that we're the ones who deserve God's love and mercy and forgiveness and attention because of who we are and how special we are and how beloved we are. And we don't necessarily want that to apply to the people who are not us. But that's not how God works. And that's certainly not how good stewards take care. Instead, we are called to help spread the love so that it grows. Spread the grace so that it grows. A good steward does not hoard the resources and starve the city or the flock that it's called to take care of, but instead invests, shepherds, and help the city flourish and become more prosperous, help the flock grow and increase, become more abundant. This is the work. The work of stewardship is the work of growth and abundance and care. So the hope is that if we are stewards of God's love and grace, it is the case that we judiciously spread it around so that it grows. That we do the best to think, what would God want with this love? What would God want with this grace? And how do I do that and make more of it? This is the work, right? That there be enough for everybody and then some left over. The work is that we don't believe that we're the only ones entitled to it and that we are the ones who hoard it, but instead that we are the ones who share it and spread it and get God's love to grow, get God's grace to be covered over so many, so that when God comes back in God's time, there is enough for all and then some. Let's read our prayer together. Let me hold all I have in open hands, so it's harder to cling to it when you get back. Amen. I hope that you gently hold what you have and that you spread out all that you can this morning so that those who encounter you might find it an abundantly rich, blessed experience. And then when you're ready, come right back here at 10 o'clock for worship. Whether you come in person or come right back here online, we will be ready to worship with you at 10 o'clock. I'll see you soon.